graffiti, so many things begin and perhaps end like a game. I suppose it amused you to find the drawing beside yours. You attributed it to chance or whim, and only the second time did you realize that it was intentional. Then you looked at it slowly. You even came back later to look at it again, taking the usual precautions. The street at its loneliest hour. No police van on the nearby corners, approaching casually, and never looking directly at the graffiti, but from the other side of the street or at an angle, pretending to be interested in the shop window next to it, and then leaving immediately. Your own game had begun out of boredom. It was not really a protest against the state of affairs in the city, the curfew, the threatening prohibition against putting up posters or writing on the walls. You simply enjoyed making drawings with colored chalk. You did not like the term graffiti, so typical of art critics, and from time to time you would come back to look at them and, if you were lucky, even watch the municipal truck arrive, along with the useless insults hurled by the employees as they erased the drawings. They cared little whether the drawings were political or not. The prohibition covered everything, and if some child had dared to draw a house or a dog, they would have erased it just the same, amid curses and threats. In the city, no one knew anymore which side fear was really on. Perhaps that was why you enjoyed mastering your own fear and, every so often, choosing the right place and time to make a drawing. You had never been in danger because you knew how to choose carefully. And during the time that passed before the cleaning trucks arrived, something like a cleaner space opened up for you, where hope could almost fit. Looking at your drawing from a distance, you could see people giving it a quick glance as they passed. No one stopped, of course, but no one failed to look at the drawing either. Sometimes a quick abstract composition into colors, a bird's profile, or two intertwined figures. Only once did you write a phrase, in black chalk, "It hurts me too." It did not last 2 hours, and this time the police themselves made it disappear. After that, you only continued making drawings. When the other one appeared beside yours, you were almost frightened. Suddenly the danger had doubled. Someone else was daring, like you, to amuse herself on the edge of prison or something worse, and that someone, on top of everything, was a woman. You yourself could not prove it. There was something different and better than the strongest evidence. A stroke, a preference for warm-colored chalks, an aura. Perhaps since you were alone, you imagined it as compensation. You admired her, worried about her, hoped it would be the only time. You almost gave yourself away when she drew again beside another one of your drawings, a desire to laugh, to stay right there in front of it as if the police were blind or stupid. A different time began. More secretive, more beautiful and threatening at the same time. Neglecting your job, you went out at any moment in the hope of surprising her. You chose the streets where you could make a single quick circuit. You returned at dawn, at dusk, at 3 in the morning. It was a time of unbearable contradiction, the disappointment of finding a new drawing of hers beside one of yours and the street empty, and the disappointment of finding nothing and feeling the street even emptier. One night you saw her first drawing alone. She had made it with red and blue chalk on a garage door, taking advantage of the texture of the rotting wood and the heads of the nails. It was more than ever her, the stroke, the colors, but you also felt that the drawing was a request or a question, a way of calling you. You returned at dawn after the patrols had thinned out in their dull sweep, and on the rest of the door you drew a quick landscape with sails and breakwaters. If you did not look closely, it might have seemed like a random game of lines, but she would know how to read it. That night you barely escaped from a pair of policemen. In your apartment you drank gin after gin and spoke to her, telling her everything that came into your head, like another drawing made of sound, another harbor with sails. You imagined her as dark-haired and silent, gave her lips and breasts, and loved her a little. Almost immediately it occurred to you that she would look for an answer, that she would return to her drawing just as you now returned to yours. And although the danger was growing greater after the attacks in the market, you dared to approach the garage, to circle the block, to drink endless beers at the cafe on the corner. It was absurd because she would not stop after seeing your drawing. Any one of the many women coming and going could be her. At dawn on the second day you chose a gray wall and drew a white triangle surrounded by spots like oak leaves. From the same cafe on the corner you could see the wall they had already cleaned the garage door, and a patrol kept returning angrily. At dusk you moved a little farther away, choosing different points from which to look, moving from one place to another, buying small things in the shops so as not to attract too much attention. It was already completely dark when you heard the siren and the searchlight swept across your eyes. There was a confused crowd gathered beside the wall. You ran, against all common sense, and were saved only by the chance of a car turning the corner and stopping when it saw the police van. Its bulk protected you, and you saw the struggle, black hair being pulled by gloved hands, kicks and screams, the broken glimpse of blue trousers before they threw her into the van and took her away. Much later it was horrible to tremble like that. It was horrible to think that this was happening because of your drawing on the gray wall. You mingled with other people and managed to see an outline in blue, the strokes of that orange which was like her name or her mouth, there in that unfinished drawing that the police had smudged before taking her away. There was enough left to understand that she had wanted to answer your triangle with another figure. A circle or perhaps a spiral, a full and beautiful shape. Something like a yes or a forever or a now. You knew it very well. You would have plenty of time to imagine the details of what would be happening at headquarters. In the city, all of it slowly seeped out. People knew the fate of the prisoners, and if now and then they happened to see one or another of them again, they would have preferred not to see them and for them, like most others, to disappear into that silence that no one dared to break. You knew it all too well. That night, a djinn would do nothing more than make you bite your hands, trample the colored chalks beneath your feet, and lose yourself in drunkenness and tears. Yes, but the days passed and you no longer knew how to live any other way. You abandoned your work again to wander through the streets, furtively looking at the walls and doors where she and you had drawn. Everything was clean, everything was clear. Nothing, not even a flower drawn in innocence by a schoolchild who had stolen a piece of chalk from class and could not resist the pleasure of using it. You could not resist either, and a month later you got up at dawn and returned to the garage street. There were no patrols. The walls were perfectly clean. A cat watched you cautiously from a doorway when you took out the chalks, and in the same place, where she had left her drawing, you covered the wood with a green scream, a red flame of recognition and love. You surrounded your drawing with an oval that was also your mood and hers and hope. Footsteps at the corner sent you running softly to the shelter of a pile of empty crates. A staggering drunkard approached, singing to himself. He tried to kick the cat and fell face down at the feet of the drawing. You left slowly, already safe, and with the first sunlight you slept as you had not slept in a long time. That same morning you looked from a distance. They had not erased it yet. You returned at noon. Almost unbelievably, it was still there. The unrest in the suburbs you had heard the news broadcasts was keeping the urban patrols away from their routine. At dusk you returned to see it, as so many people had seen it throughout the day. You waited until 3 in the morning to go back. The street was empty and black. From a distance you discovered the other drawing, and only you could have distinguished it, so small, high up and to the left of yours. You approached with something that was thirst and horror at the same time. You saw the orange oval and the violet stains from which what seemed to be a swollen face emerged, one eye hanging, a mouth crushed by fists. I know, but what else could I have drawn for you? What message would have made sense now? Somehow I had to say goodbye to you and at the same time ask you to go on. I had to leave you something before returning to my refuge, where there was no longer any mirror. Only a hollow in which to hide until the end in complete darkness. Remembering so many things and sometimes, just as I had imagined your life, imagining that you were making other drawings, that you went out at night to make other drawings. The end.